Good evening and welcome to the Gallant Few, the Rangers podcast. It's for Rangers fans, it's by Rangers fans. So welcome along everyone who's viewing us live. We'd like to get your comments and questions in the comments below. So do interact, let us know where we're going wrong and give us a good steer when you can. At no expense whatsoever, the assembled cast of Gallant Few are here. All the usual favourites. Starting with Colin McDuff, the leader of our team. Colin, how are we?
Good to be on, Davie. Good to be on. Double podding for me today, back in the Daily News. A wee nudge to MD who's not subscribed to £1 a month tier. But no, good to be on. I'm feeling fairly confident ahead of the weekend because if this Rangers team have told us anything, when the pressure's off, they turn it into fucking 2001 AC Milan. So I'm looking forward to Saturday and looking forward to discussing it with you boys.
Well, I'm hoping that confidence is infectious because we will certainly need it come Saturday morning. I certainly will. David Tomlinson, our foreign correspondent. How are we, David? How's things abroad? You get nice weather these days?
Starting early with the old
He
mute.
didn't even make it past 5 minutes this time. Before... Take yourself off mute, you.
Sorry. I didn't even realise I'd put it on mute, to be honest.
David, hold on. David, can I just interrupt you? Just wait till I tick that box. David, on mute.
We'll get it over early. The weather has been raining for about 3 days here now, so it's been absolutely crap weather. We're having real Scottish weather. It's one good thing about it. It stops me feeling homesick.
All right. Well, that's certainly. Well, we had actually quite a nice day today, so we can keep the rain to yourself. Andrew, who represents our youth policy. Andrew, how are we?
Yeah, I'm good. It's always good to be classed as the youth of the podcast because as soon as I hit 21, I started to feel old, and everybody told me I was an idiot. But it's nice to be reassured that I'm still in the young side for now, at least.
I can assure you are our youth policy by quite a way. Oh, quite a way. So listen, guys, it's straight on to our, the stuff we've got here for you. We have been inundated, it would appear, by the list of names the press have gone in Toronto with potential signings. And I mean, I sent you through a list earlier. I'm not going to repeat them now, but who amongst that lot, we've got, I think the Dujon Sterling, the boy, I did have a wee look at his video, his YouTube video reel. I don't often do that, but I did for him. But this boy, I mean, not unlike Colin. Did you have a look at it? And he's kind of Calvin Bassey-esque type, the right back. He's a big boy, and certainly from the clips I saw, he is quite strong.
That's what we were saying before. Before we started recording, so I can't remember whose part of them stealing money. He said that everybody were linked with his big, powerful bastards, isn't it? And I think I quite like that. Go and win the battle first, and then make sure they can play football as well. But you're right, Calvin Bassey, and I seen somebody posted on Twitter today that they looked at, obviously he's had a few loan spells, but they looked at transfer marked and how many games he's played in different positions, and he's played up front, he's played left back, centre back, right back, either wing as well. I like a utility player, I really do. If he's going to be somebody coming in challenging, I think it'll help us if he can slot in a number of positions. I think with the size of the rebuild, that's not going to do us any harm.
Certainly not. David, this boy is 23 years old. I think he kind of fits the profile of players that we should be looking at, So I'm really hoping this one is for real. And do you know anything about him? Because clearly he's on loan at Stoke at the moment, but he is with Chelsea. And for a few million quid, I think this boy looks exactly up our street, as it were.
Well, he seemingly went through the whole Chelsea academy, and he was actually he got right up to the Chelsea first team before COVID, and he was seemingly doing very well. He was picked out that he was going to be the next Chelsea right back, and then all of a sudden he seemed to get an illness by COVID, sorry, and nobody seems to know what this illness was, and it sort of knocked him right back, and now he's come back. He's had one injury last year, a groin injury. He had 28 games for Stoke last year, and no, I watched his video film, and as Colin said, he's a big guy, and I think we'll go through some other names, but I think the one thing that we can say now, all the players that we're linked with are big, powerful men. I think we're going to get away from the wee, Hadji type players, the sort of a thin guys. It's going to be big mountains, mountains. We seem to be looking at.
David, we've probably got enough of them, don't we? Like to be honest, we probably have enough flair players, if you like, and we need players to come in and be consistent.
Yeah, well, the one that I saw, and I watched his video there just now, Maja, I think it was called. It was supposed to be quite far on as well during the week. I haven't heard an awful lot more about it, but we were seeming right into him. And he's a big, powerful centre forward as well. He really looks quite good in his film. But as I said, these films you've got to watch out, because even Sable looked good in the YouTube film. But I think that's the way we're going, with big, powerful players, and we're leaving the sort of small guys behind. Yeah. The one thing, can I just say, the one thing about him is, in all the games he's played, he's only had 10 yellow cards. And if you see the way he dives into tackles, it's unbelievable that he's only had 10 yellow cards, because he doesn't pull back, that's for sure. You're getting a guy, if it's true, you're getting a guy that doesn't pull back from a tackle. He just goes in full-heartedly.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my overall impression. He just looked quite a physical player, kind of much like, as I said, Bassey. But he gets up close to them and gets tight. There was no hint of that Borna thing, when the defender he's up against is holding a knife, and Borna won't get within 3 yards of him. So that would certainly be a positive outlook for that guy. Andrew, coming on to you, is there anyone that we've been linked with is getting you excited? Is there?
Well, I'm happy that again, that to mimic what everyone said, the kind of strapping, kind of strong guys coming back. I think we lost a lot of physicality when we lost Bassey, Balogun, even further up the park. I know he wasn't really up for the physical battle all the time, but Aribo was a big lanky lad, and that's hard to get off the ball sometimes. I think when we lost those 3 players, we kind of lost the physical battle. I'm happy with Sterling. He's a name I kind of knew about, as a young guy playing FIFA, but didn't really look into him a lot. I put some more research in since we started to be linked with him. I'm actually quite impressed with him. I think he could be a really good player if we could get that over the line. I thought it was an end of contract deal. I could be wrong, but which would be lovely. Again, yep, I think to maybe say he's had his kind of time down south, he's maybe not getting as much out of it as he'd hope. Come up to Rangers, make a name for yourself, and maybe get yourself back down the Premier League again. Give us a nice amount of money, and we could the cycle continues for us. Sign low, sell high. Sign low, sell high. I think he'd be a great signing. Again, something we talked about was Austin Trusty, I believe it says, the American. A big, kind of strong defender, which would be good. I think everybody seems to be agreeing that defence is woeful. So I think getting some more strength into that kind of back four would be good, especially if we're losing a Hollander potentially in the summer. So yeah, I'm happy with what I've seen so far.
I think Hollander possibly as well as Ben Davis. But it was interesting to see Danny Wilson in the press today, bigging him up. The boy from Birmingham, Austin Trusty, which is a good sign, because he was played with him in one of the teams in America, so he's been up close, and he said that he's actually surprised that it's it would only be, I mean, the number mentioned was 2 million, but it's he was actually surprised it was as little as that, and that this would be someone who Rangers should be looking, to get on board. Certainly, he can.
Can I just say one thing, Davey? For Sterling, there would be a cross-border academy fee, I think, because he's been at Chelsea for 15 years. But we know is Joe Aribo, and that's not that great a sum of money. So probably a couple of 100,000, and not certainly not millions.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the list of names, which, I mean, there have got to be 6 or 7, maybe 8, even 8 now, the names that were mentioned. Colin, coming back to yourself, is this a sign that Michael Beale is keen to get all this business done early? Because I'm quite encouraged, that we're going to do this prior to as early as possible, because I think it's vitally important that, we get these players to Auchenhowie, and that Michael Beale, molds us into a unit that can that can get us back on top next season. So I'm really encouraged. With the background changes, the boardroom changes at Ibrox. I think there seems to be a focus, and maybe I'm a bit of wishful thinking here, but in terms of the club are keen to get certainly Michael Beale is keen to get the business done and get these players on board. Because you know how these transfer windows, struggle on and on and on, and you get to the last 2 weeks and it all seems a wee bit desperate. I'm really pleased that Rangers, even that the names are being banded about, and some of the comments I've seen are that these couple of these signings are imminent. So what's your take on all that? I mean, do you want to see these guys arrive at Auchenhowie, prior to pre-season so that they're there from day one?
Absolutely, Davie. We all said that the rebuild, it doesn't start on the 1st of June, it started on the 1st of January. And, we made a good start. We can't well in Rashford coming in. But when the January transfer window closed, we had to keep on going. And I don't think there's a pod that's came on this podcast that's not said otherwise. It's too big a job to wait until the 1st of June to start scrambling for who's available and who's players. We need to be doing the groundwork now. And I think we are. With all the speculation going in, you're always going to get a lot of players and agents to link Rangers with certain stories. It's just we're a big name, we're an attractive name. But I think what we've probably seen a lot more than usual at this point in time, and I think that's probably because Rangers are active in the market. So you'll get all the usual nonsense, which is just paper talk, but some of them will hold their weight of truth, and we'll actually see more agents maybe bigging their players up because they know Rangers are in the market. I think 2 positions we're seeing us linked with a lot of strikers. I don't think that's coincidence, and we're seeing there's linked with a lot of left-sided centre halves. So I tend to think when it's a certain position that you see popping up time and time again, that's because the club are actively in that market, and agents. No every player linked in that position is going to be a player, but you do see agents try to push for that player.
Yeah, David, a one for you here, because at the moment, with Ross Wilson's departure, we don't have a director of football. So I would have thought this would have been, right up their alley in terms of identifying players, getting the business done early. And yet I'm not, aware of what the structure is in place is at the moment. I mean, is this all falling in Michael Beale? And should it all be falling in Michael Beale? Or if it is, are you happy with that situation? Do we need a director of football in to make sure that this doesn't fall flat in its face?
Well, I think I've said this in the pod a few times. I think a director of football that's going to pick players and hand them over to a manager and say, do something with that lot is totally wrong. I think the manager should identify that you can have a director of football identifying players, but the manager should go out and he should do the groundwork, whether that player will fit into his team or not. I think that's the way to go. I think if you look at the players that we're linked with just now, there's been a Michael Beale sort of worked with them before, or he knows them from somewhere. I think most of the players have been like that. I mean, the one, Chris Willock, QPR, he's worked with them there. No, the boy today from Chelsea, he worked with Beale at Chelsea. So I mean, I think you can see right through the players that we're getting. There's a Michael Beale influence on it, and I think that's the way we're going. There was just another thing that we were both interested in Chris Willock from QPR, but seemingly they've now triggered a 1 year extension. Whether that's just to bump the price or not, I don't know, but they've triggered a 1 year extension on them. I watched the Maja. You were talking about strikers. I watched the Maja YouTube film there, and definitely a big difference from what we've had. And he looks a really. He's one of these strikers that do be flicked and can beat a man and certainly composure when 1-against-1 with the keeper. From what I've seen of him, so I'm hoping sort of that's maybe a good one. And the one that sort of really got me going in the beginning was Palma. I think he'll be they're talking about him from Aris. We've talked about him in the morning show quite a few times. He looks really good, and he'll probably come in for Ryan Kent if he does come in.
Yeah, yeah. I saw the guy from Thessaloniki. Lewis Palmer, yeah. I mean, certainly, again, that there's a profile here of sort of the players that we want to attract, and he would certainly, as much like Sterling is, I think he kind of ticks the boxes. Andrew, coming to yourself, that we have no director of football, and we're being linked with a number of exciting players. They are, in my opinion, but the question is, how are we going to shift some of the guys that we have to cut the wage bill here? So we'll have the corresponding number of players going out the door. How are we going to, do the deals with, those that we can get some money for, and persuade those who, we're not going to get money for, that their future lies elsewhere? There's a heap of work to be done there. If we have no director of football, how in your opinion, is all this going to? How are we going to square this particular circle? Because there's a lot of negotiation in there, and if to leave it all to Michael Beale would seem, almost cruel.
Yeah, I think Michael's got a tough job without the director of football. I think having a director of football kind of helps alleviate some of the stress that Michael will have to be under. Because of course he'll be welcoming new players in that he's probably had to deal with in the past via Chelsea or whatever, and trying to get them integrated in a new system that we've kind of seen tinkered with towards the end of this season. And he's hinted to seeing something completely different next season once you have a pre-season and you get all the players in that he wants in. They always say, it's harder to get players out just as much as it is to get players in, especially when guys are tied down to poor contracts, or in some cases good contracts at the time, but they've just had a really bad form slip, like Mr. Davie T's favourite player, John Lundstrom. Last year he would have looked like a £20 million player. Now he looks like a £2 player. So it's going to be quite hard to try and get rid of some of those players. I seen somewhere, it was a story about, it was Jack Rodwell with Sunderland. He really was on a really bad contract. He was getting paid a lot. It was a good contract for him, don't get me wrong, but it was a really bad contract for the club. And he just wouldn't go. He just wouldn't go, and he wouldn't go at all, and he had to wait till the end of his deal. And sometimes it might just be that. Some guys might just want the money and will sit on the bench. That's the one thing I was slightly concerned about. Our goalie target, Jack Butland, as he is, just sitting. I don't even think he makes a Man United bench. He goes into training, but I don't even think he makes the bench for Man United, but he's happy to take the money. So it's kind of going to be a difficult one. We just need to wait and see how it goes.
Colin, I'm going to dump this one on you because you're a wee bit more better connected than any of us. So, I mean, how exactly does this work? Because my understanding, limited though it may be, of the director of football is that he will be out there, oiling the wheels of, the deal and maximising the value of some of the assets that we'll be looking to, have a fee. I'm thinking of the likes of Glenn Kamara's here, maybe Ben Davis, so we would want to absolutely maximise the value of that. and that's not necessarily the football coach's role in the business. So who's going to take up that responsibility to make sure that our transfer budget is absolutely maxed, because someone has gone out there and found the best value for us in terms of some of the players that are leaving? How is this going to work? I don't have a name.
So my take on the situation, and again, I'm not in the know or anything, but my take on it, just looking at Michael Beale's comments and how Ross Wilson left. When Ross Wilson left, Michael Beale spoke regularly about the most of the summer's business was underway and the targets had been identified and the moves had been identified. For me, I think that's both ingoing and outgoing. So I think the handover, if you like, that Ross Wilson left, that should have a few parameters in place, that Glenn Kamara would go for X amount. That's the value you're looking to go for. Scott Wright would go for X amount, or X, Y, and Z player go out on loan. I think all that's already been in. For me, I'm guessing that that's already been agreed between Ross Wilson, Michael Beale, and the board before Ross Wilson left. And then it's just down to the board to try and make these things happen. So I think for the most part, the early stages of the summer window is done, but things will change. Like we may get a bid for somebody who we didn't plan on going, or we may go for a certain target, and say we go for a right back or whatever. Our first three targets for the right back, we might not be able to get them. We need to get back to the drawing board. So while we have the early stages in, that'll maybe see us through to mid-July, late July, maybe, because typically not a lot of business happens in June. I think we need somebody in by July. There's a lot of ballroom shake-up right now. I think that might be appealing to some potential director of football, because you always, in any business, when there's a shake-up at that kind of high level, you can almost kind of dictate what you want your job to be or how easy you want it to be, and there's a room for negotiation. So I think we'll have a few applicants because of the pace of change at Rangers. But again, that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important of the summer may be the correct director of football, who's going to, churn these players in and out and smooth those deals and get, wring out the best value they can for Rangers. So with no one there at the moment, I'm just wondering how Michael Beale does all this. If it's all pretty much in place, then Jesus, that would be fantastic. But you know how these things it ain't over until it's over, and the signing, the dotted line. So it's because I think the turnover of players that I certainly hope to see is a fair body of work, and I really don't see how Michael Beale will be nor would he be interested in, because I don't think the commercial aspects of it will keep him awake at night. I think what would keep him awake at night would be that he gets the correct players, so he wants to clear the space in that squad and get the correct players in to build a team which is going to do what we want it to do. And I don't think he will be hung up on the pay deals and transfer fees in the same way that a director of football would be laser focused on that. So it's just my own thoughts. David, do you get any opinion on all of this and well, the director of football and the boardroom shake up that's taken place only this week with Kenny Barclay leave as their finance director? And my first question was, Kenny who? But he's gone now anyway. But that's that's a fair turnover of staff, and I think, as Colin's just said, that may be an attraction for someone coming into the club, and that they've got a bit of headway, free space to create what they want to create, and not going to be restricted by people who have been there for 20 years. How's this all going to work for Rangers?
Well, I think if you remember right, Beale said, I think it was the first time he was here, I want to look at players in the eye before I sign them. So I think it doesn't matter what happens, Beale is going to go out and talk to the people that Rangers are trying to sign. It's not going to be a director of football saying, here, you're getting him. what Andy was talking about, getting rid of players, I think that one of the biggest part of that was for Chelsea, Winston Bogarde. I don't know if anybody remembers him playing for Chelsea, but he played about 4 games in the beginning when he was signed. He had a 4-year contract. He was getting 40,000 a week, and he kept turning up for training just in his bath slippers and a bathrobe because he knew he wasn't getting a game anyway. They're getting in the team, but he had to turn up to keep his contract alive. He had to turn up. If you have a Google at Winston Bogarde, and you'll see Winston Bogarde Chelsea, and you'll see a number of games begin, then 40,000 a week for the rest of the contract, 4 years long. So that could happen to us. That a player won't leave. In fact, I think there will be players that won't leave because the chance of them getting the money, unless they can get down to maybe Lundstrom get down to the championship, they'll be on the sort of the same money. But the likes of Barisic, I don't know whether it's back in his own country he'll get the same money as he's getting at Rangers. So players like that might just stick around. But yeah, the board, as you say, with the board changing, it could be a positive influence because you've got really a basic. Everything's new to start with. A new slate. The slate's been wiped clean, so you can fill the job in for yourself. But I don't think it will be like Wilson telling Beale, "Here you go." I think that's finished now, and it so it should be. Manager, he should be dictating what players are coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought of the players being handed to Michael Beale, from someone else and signed on, we got this guy in the cheap, and here he is. I mean, that just simply horrifies me in terms of how to build a football team. I just don't see how that can work. But I'm not. Michael Beale doesn't seem the type. But hey ho, let's hoping. Andrew, coming back to yourself, there's see I'm just thinking of the squad last week. Myself and David spoke about this, and we're looking at the team last week. How many of those players do you think are going to survive until next season? If you were to from the 15 players who were involved, the starting 11 and the 4 subs, how many of those will be with us, come the start of pre-season? How many would you expect to see?
I certainly have a couple of players I'd really like us to get rid of. But even it was almost frustrating for some reason that, Glenn Kamara has been as far out with the Rangers team as I had a better chance of getting that midfield than he had for most of this season. And yet, when he came on, I thought he had quite a decent wee showing. I thought it was back to his kind of best. He looked confident on the ball. He wasn't afraid to move the ball forward. And it was almost like, well, if you were doing that during the season, then you would have been playing every week, and we might have sold you for a lot of money. But it was a real frustrating sight to see like some players with that kind of kick up the backside. Whether or not that is to get themselves in the shop window, I don't know. One person who definitely must be here next season is the guy who I think will definitely be in the sticks for the game this weekend. It has to be Robbie McCrory for me. Oof, I think we have been sleeping on him for a while, and I think he's finally coming out to let his star shine. I've had a big I was really happy with both of McCrory's. I thought both of them had a good chance at Rangers. And Ross, unfortunately, joined the ever-long list of Rangers Academy players going to other teams in the league and doing well for them. So I'm hoping we don't make the same mistake with Robbie, and he sticks around for as long as we can keep him, because I think he was a really good keeper. I know he was linked with, I think, did Ten Hag not have a look at him at the start of the season for some reason? I think I seen there was a link there. So he certainly looked at, and I think he's rated highly at the club. So I'm hoping that we treat him with the right amount of respect he deserves. For he's been nowhere near the team, rightly or wrongly, for the last few years, and he's devoted. He is a Rangers man. Let's not forget, but he's devoting a lot of time for someone that's not getting into the first team. So he certainly wants to be here, from what I'm guessing. So I just hope that he will be at least getting more. He'll be more in contention for this next season, regardless if we bring in a world keeper or somebody who we might want to regret, but I think we're okay with him, and I certainly hope we see him on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Butland is also on the list, so I think from my understanding is that that's quite advanced and that we could probably pencil him in. Obviously, nothing's certain, but it looks like Jack Butland may be a goer. But certainly Robbie McCrory, I mean, talking about Saturday's team, I will be coming back to you in a wee bit later just to find out what we will do on Saturday. But Colin, continuing on the theme of team development, the B team last night, Glasgow Cup final, Ibrox against that mob, you know, and I think their unofficial title is now that mob. So we a 3-3 draw after a calamitous start. We eventually got the draw of it straight to penalties, and the penalty shootout was it had me in despair. But hey, I got over it about 10 minutes later, saying it's only the B team, you know. But from that team last night, is there anyone there caught your eye in terms of, you know, adding to our squad over the summer? Is there any cheap ops? Save us some money. Anyone from that team who you think will be in our first team squad next season? From what you saw,
it's hard. It's such a big jump for B team football to the first team, and a big jump for Lowland League football to the first team. I think last night you seen the best and worst of the Rangers be this season. Obviously, they didn't win the Lowland League again, which again these are young boys playing against men. But I think what they've really struggled with, kind of similar to the Rangers first team, is being consistently at a decent level throughout the full games. They do have a tendency to switch off, and last night they just switched off for the first 15-20 minutes, and then you've seen the best in them by coming back. I think there's a lot of growing up for some of these players today, and I know Curry's in the comments asking about Lovelace. I know he's a big fan of Lovelace. For me, I think he's still too raw. I think we need to remember some of these boys are only 16, 17. They are still developing. I do think there's Alex Lowry will be in about the first team squad next year. I think Tony Weston, for me, I think he's maybe a bit ahead of Lovelace just in what I've seen. I think he's probably a bit more composed. He's a bit calmer in the game as well. I do like Tony Weston, so when we're in the market for potentially 3 strikers, Tony Weston might feature in the bench as a 4th striker. One player who I would like to see in the squad next season, albeit he didn't have a great game last night, but every time I've seen him being really impressed, is the captain, Robbie Fraser. He should never take a penalty again for the rest of his life, Robbie Fraser, because that was woeful. But I really like him as a player, and I think if we start to see Borna Barisic come to the end of his Rangers career, whether it be next year or the year after, we're putting a lot of eggs in the Lovelace basket. I think Robbie Fraser, the Yilmaz basket. I think Robbie Fraser, he looks like he's going to be something big. I put him in the same bracket as Adam Devine, if I'm being honest. And I don't know why Adam Devine's broke through earlier than Robbie Fraser, maybe because Devine can play both sides, but I really rate him.
Right. David, the penalties last night I thought were absolutely woeful. I mean, they are young boys. There's no doubt about that. But these are the cream of you know our academy who are out there, and with that obviously it's a big occasion. They're in the Glasgow Cup final, but when they step up to the first team, if they thought they felt pressure last night taking a penalty kick, just wait until they get into the first team. And I thought that some of the penalties that we took would just succumb to the pressure. So, I mean, the same question that I asked to Colin, is there anyone there who you think will save us a few bob and could feature in the first team? And also, I mean, just general comments on our youth team and the standard of it. Is this what's required? Should we be maybe expecting a wee bit higher standard than that?
The double whammy.
Again. The three players that were
Quick fire.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just
three
ticking the
players
box
that
again.
sort of stood out for me last night, and that was Lewis Rice. Is it Lewis Rice? Rice.
Bailey Rice.
Bailey Rice, sorry. The boy Lyle. And there was a third one. I've forgotten his name now. I'll come up with it in a minute. The player disappointed me was Lowry. I thought he was. He looked as if, yeah, I'm Lowry. I'm here. I can do everything. I'm too good for this level. That's the opinion I got. When he went off at was it half time or just after half time? He didn't look like he broke sweat, and I was really disappointed in him. The boy Rice and the boy Lyle were absolutely brilliant. I thought the two of them. Rice, he was the best player in the park, and if he's not round about the first team, I mean, I know he's only 16, but if he's not up and around the first team, then Rangers need to watch what they're doing, because there's not going to be many boys going through the academy. He's certainly good enough to get to at least get some game time in the first team. He must, because if you take it Barry Ferguson and you take all the younger ones, Derek Johnson, 16, they were in the first team as well. Ferguson, I don't know, he was a wee bit older. I'm going to be with Robbie Fraser. I think it's a funny one, because the guy's 20, as far as I know, and he's hardly played. He's never played for the first team. He's sat on the bench a couple of times. So, I mean, I really think that's a funny one, given my 2-year contract. If you take it that we've still got Yilmaz and Borna Barisic, then I don't really know. I don't understand that one, to be quite honest with you. If you say he's a great player, Colin, then I'll take that.
This is just John Lunsome all over again. Anytime I rate a player, you just want to argue with me, don't you?
No, but I just find it a funny one that he's 20-year-old and not even had a look at the first team. That just sort of surprises me. And as I say, on his show last night, he wasn't that great. But in that, certainly the first half, there was more players not very great. I thought Lovelace, we watched him in the Youth Cup 2 weeks ago, was it? And he didn't look that great either. But I thought he sort of came back yesterday. I thought he was actually quite good. And it's certain the shot that hit the post for the goal for Weston. I think the thing with Weston, Colin, is that he's not doing very good at his loan club at the moment, as far as I know. And I don't even think he's getting some game time, but I don't think he's getting a lot of game time at his own at the loan club. So whether he's ready for the Rangers first team when he can't get a game for a loan club, then I don't know about that one either. So, but definitely Rice and Lyle were the two that really, really jumped out at me and says, I'm ready for the first team.
Yeah. Andrew, coming back to you, there's did you see the game last night, first of all, and was there, who from here is going to save us a few bucks? Because I had a couple of names myself, Bailey Rice, obviously, and Zach Lovely, so you can see that there's a potential in there. And Alex Lowry, I think Dave just nailed it there in terms of, is there I've heard rumours about it, and maybe I'm just seeing what I've been fed in terms of his attitude. I think just apply himself just a wee bit more, or just a wee bit too much swagger and not enough sweat, as David has correctly pointed out. What was your take on last night, and is there anything in there, any wee gems that we've got for next season?
Well, first of all, I have to agree. I think Bailey Rice is a really good, solid player, but I don't think next season is the season for him. Still only 16, very young lad. Don't think that we'd be throwing him into the deep end, just chucking him in next season. I'd definitely be keeping an eye on his development. My old pal Aaron Lyle, I keep looking up and see what happens with him for the Rangers B team, and he keeps popping up there every now and again where we go, and I decided to just check. In the 34 appearances in the Lowland League, he's the 13 goals and 2 assists. So he's averaging about half of a goal involvement here or there. In the Lowland League this season, it's 19. I have to back my old school pal there. I think the one kind of youth talent, because I don't think we would class him as a youth talent anymore, because he was really, really thrown in at the deep end this year, that I'd really like to see us get behind is Leon King. I think if we are going to be looking at centre halves, and if it's a lot more than just one, then I think if we're getting rid of Ben Davies, which a few people really want to, then you're going to need to get a star centre back. I think you need a strong kind of a Goldson level. Because Goldson is undeniably our best centre back. I think it's look where we are with him, look where we are without him. You need somebody on that level at least. And I think if you're doing that, you're going to need to spend money. So I think getting Leon promoted, really getting him in there involved, getting him some more game time, and I think that would do no harm to him, and I don't think it would do much harm to the team, because I think he really is a mature head on the young shoulders. I thought he did, although we look at the scorelines, I thought he had some good moments in the Champions League where he looked like he was handling himself against a lot much better opposition, as we found out. So I'd definitely be backing him. And for most of the players last night, I think next season's too soon for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Leon King's probably a good example, Andrew, because you're right. He's going in, and our hand was pretty much forced in terms of putting him in the team, but he was up against the top players in Europe, and I thought he equipped himself very well. And I just wondered, is the further development of Leon King, is keeping him, playing B team games, doing that boy any good? Because he's been to the mountaintop, and I think either we continue. Are we hoping that by putting him in the B team that he further improves, and then we put him in the first team? We've pretty much seen the level of Leon King, so I think for me, this is the point at which a decision is made. Is there any further development in Leon King, or has he pretty much reached his peak? He's played the best level of football he will ever play, and really the assessment should be made on his performance in those games as to whether he's a Rangers first team squad player or not, because he's kind of drifted away, and I just wonder whether it's development or it's confidence, but really I really don't see what the logic is in having Leon King come to the first squad, play in the Champions League, and then go back to the B team. I just, because
see on that, Davie. See on that. I think I make this point quite a lot on the pod, where I think as Rangers fans, and every single one of us will be guilty of it. Every single of the listeners will be guilty of it as well. We like the idea of youth players until we actually need to play them, and understanding how long it takes for a youth player who isn't Barry Ferguson to actually break into the first team well. Leon King, he was played an absolute shite in their hand, having to play alongside James Sands. He got injured, or maybe his confidence knocked, but at the same time, Golson and Davis then came back, and then Souters came back, the three more experienced players ahead of him. So I think for me, that's probably why he's no featured, because up until about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were trying to keep the pressure on to win a trophy this season. So it wasn't the right time for me to put Leon King back in the fold. So I think it's the right thing to do for the team and for him. But I'm with Andy. I totally expect him to be one of the 4, one of the 5 centre halves next season, because I've seen enough that he is, and I think we need to remember he's not going to play the perfect season next season, maybe not even the year after, but to invest in youth teams, youth players, not everybody's going to be a Nathan Patterson or a Barry Ferguson. More often than not, they're going to be an Alan McGregor, who'll take 7 or 8 years to actually come into his full potential.
Well, but I think that, they're not all going to be Barry Fergusons, but I think the temperament which Barry Ferguson has and Nathan Patterson, if we don't see signs of that, in the likes of Leon King, then maybe it's just not there.
We do need to see the potential, you're right.
Yeah, well, I think it's, there's no such thing as luck. It's ability meets opportunity, isn't it? So if you've got the ability and then you get the opportunity to get into the first team, you'll either sink or swim, won't you? Because not necessarily, in the first 90 minutes that you play, but there certainly should be a period of assessment at which, your long-term career at Rangers, a judgment has to be made whether you've got it or not. It's as simple as that. Does he have it? So moving back to the B teams, we can further develop him. I really don't know if that's possible. Maybe that's I've got a very simple view of all of this, but I certainly for what is supposed the cream of our academy were on show last night, and I think and I've dumbed it down to just a penalty shootout in terms of the standard of technical ability to strike the ball, from 12 yards. I just thought, good God. I mean, and a lot of it is mental, but if that's them, in an empty Ibrox, in the Glasgow Cup final, I just wonder whether they've got it to play Ibrox when there's 50,000 people baying at them. Just my own thoughts. But my guys, moving on, I'm going to just come round to you and ask you to give me an indication of what your team is going to be on Saturday, because we're careering on here, and I'm just going to run through my own team, and there's a couple in here which I'm going to have to put my bulletproof vest on here, because there's a couple of names in here which I'm ready for you anyway, right? So here we go. I've got McCrory in goals, and my 4 defenders are Tav, Goldson, Suter and Ridvan. No surprises there. With Lundstrom and Raskin as our 2 holding midfielders. I've then got Sakala, Cantwell, and here's the bombshell, Scott Wright, with Alfredo Morelos up front. So I've had a look at the squad. I had a look who started the last couple of games, and I toyed with Arfield. I even toyed with Glenn Kamara, but I thought, no, this is who I'm going with. So, Colin, start with yourself. How are we going to get by here on Saturday? Because we've got a mixture of people, of people who will be here next season, but there's also going to be a fair sprinkling of people who will not be here next season to get us through this game. What are you expecting to see?
I think Davie heard the comment I'm sharing it now. Can't come up with any forward line on Saturday without it looking shite. It's kind of how I feel. It's just what's the least shitest version of shite. But you were very close to my team for the back to middle. I would play Robbie McCrory, and that back 4 that you mentioned, James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, John Suter for me looks the better centre half than Ben Davies right now on form and on confidence, and Yilmaz at left back. The 2 pivot roles, John Lundstrom, Nico Rashin, no surprises, I'm buying the John Lundstrom drum again. I have been critical of him this season. I've taken my bias away, but I thought he's played well the last couple of games. Then the front 4, I feel like I'm going to go Cantwell and Hadji, because I really liked how they 2 linked up, and I think Hadji's came back with a wee bit of almost determination, but a vengeance in between his teeth. He's really looking to make up for lost time. I can't see. I don't know. Morelos has just annoyed me too much, and I think he's fucked off Michael Beale too much, more importantly. So for me, I think it'd be Fashion Sakala through the middle, and I'm going to agree with you. Scott Wright, fuck it. He must be better than... He can't be any better than any worse than Matondo. So that's who I'm going for.
Yeah, I know I had to take a stiff drink before I wrote down the name Scott Wright.
We should mute the comments when going through these teams, man, because I'm not going to please MD with these.
No, listen, I was expecting, as I said, which is why I'd put my bulletproof vest on underneath, because I was expecting some flack. So, David, it's your turn. Make sure you've turned the mute off first of all, right? And tell us what your team will be on Saturday.
Well, first of all, I'm not taking my shirt off because I don't want to kill everybody. But
what I should say, we get most of the listeners through Spotify and Apple, so the ones that are only watching on YouTube, that's going to feel so out of place who weren't watching the comments.
Anyway, I don't think there's. I mean, you look at the Rangers bench, and there's not a lot to change, is there? Really? I mean, most of the youth players played yesterday, so there's not a chance that they're going to play against Celtic in Saturday. And there's just very, very little. I think he's right. I think Davies was injured at the last game as well, so definitely Suter will come in. I think Yilmaz will keep his place. So I can only agree with you with the most of it. I don't think Morelos will. I think he might come on late, but as Colin says, I think Morelos is Beale is too angry with him to play him. So I think it probably will be Sakala through the middle, and yeah, then you've got I don't know, Ryan Kent. Is he fit or is he not fit?
Oh, fuck him, it doesn't matter.
That's what I was going to say there.
I've got a feeling that if Kent was fit, then Beale would play him, but he stuck by him all year. But there's not a lot. You look at that Rangers team, and there's just absolutely very little you can sort of do to think we'll get a positive result out of this, and that's just hope that we play good. But I think it'll be Sakala through the middle, and I'll even give you Wright out in the left wing. But it's Matondo or Wright, and yeah, Matondo's not really done much better than Wright, so I'll give you Wright for this one.
Smashing, right? It wasn't as controversial as I thought then, so I'll take my bulletproof vest off. Andrew, what lineup have you got for Saturday? Is there any surprises?
Very similar.
A goner.
Aye, I think that's a given. I think with everything that's gone on kind of on social media, he seems to have kind of just had his last hurrah, even not listening to brilliant hurrah, as he was not a good change when he came on. I think Robbie's got to be in goal. Again, I've said the same thing with the Red Van or Borna argument all season. Whoever's training the hardest and wants it more, that's a Michael Beale decision. I'm not in there on the training ground. I don't see it. Whoever is giving their all, who really wants it, who really wants it gets in that team for the weekend. Suter, yep. I don't know how long Davies will be out for, but if he's a Rangers player, it'll at least be 12 months. Connor, I'm so happy Connor Goldson's in there, hopefully, because we are god awful without him. Tav will be there. I've got Lundstrom and Raskin. Then we get to where the kind of conundrum begins. I think Hadji definitely, I think Colin was right, he's come back with that kind of fire. Because I have always rated him. I think he was really unfortunate with that kind of injury. And then the kind of it wasn't even a big matchup. I believe it was an early cup round. He got the knee injury in. And I was worried it would derail him. He seems to be coming back with a bit of fire in the belly, so I'm happy to see him, and I'd have him in. Todd Cantwell, I don't think he's put a foot wrong for us so far, so he gets in. Then you get to... Now, funnily enough, if you'd told me going into the last Old Firm of the season, it would either be Rabbi Matondo or Scott Wright, I would have told you you're a fucking loony. But... And that's nothing against two players, because it's the two players I'll die on a hill and tell you I think they're two talented players that we should develop. I love Scott Wright and I love Rabbi Matondo. I've coined the phrase Matondo Mania. I'm getting it printed on shirts as we speak. I'm not actually. And unfortunately, I'm going at the weekend, so I might get hit with a Sakala shot. I'm on the sideline, so I'm worried it's going to hit me. So I might take your flak jacket, Davie, just in case he hits me. I honestly cannot wait to get rid of Fashion Sakala up front. The guy behind me, Ibrox, will defend him till his last breath. And he goes, oh, we're taking Sakala off. And I'm like, thank the Lord, yes. I cannot stand him. The offside, it was, oh my God. He was just walking back from an offside against Aberdeen. And I couldn't for the life of me think why. Because and the thing is, I don't think there's any thought going between his ears that says otherwise. It just goes wherever his legs take him. And the funny thing is, I'm scared when he takes the ball, his left foot, his right foot's going to take him out. I don't know. I said that
Andrew,
when we had that final five, I want it to be over and done with, because I don't want to watch Sakala any longer.
Yeah, before the pre-match chat on Sunday, I had, stated just much as you've said there, Fashion Sakala, there isn't a football player in there. Honestly, this was heresy. There was
Uzair wanted them in the summer. I'd pay Uzair to take them off off our hands. Honestly, it's dreadful.
In fact, the boys I were with were threatening taking a rewind, gallant few podcasts where I had defended Fashion Sakala, and throw the evidence in my face. But you liked him. I said, well, I've changed my mind. He's now shite. So,
and I tell you what, after 2 goals on Saturday, we're going to be on here on Sunday saying he's fucking terrific. That's just the nature of this podcast.
So that was what I got flung in my face, but you've defended him. Because there were a couple of goals, and I'm thinking, the away game at Kilmarnock when he takes a beautiful touch, off he goes, pings it across perfectly, and Alfredo Morella's first touch, ping right in the net. And I says, yeah, well, obviously that I was waxing lyrical about Fashion at that one. So I'm getting beaten over the head by previous comments about Fashion because, there is a touch in there, but everything's just too rushed and helter-skelter. It's
I don't think the phrase all sugar or all shite has ever been placed so perfectly on a player other than Fashion Sakala. It's either a lovely, difficult volley, a pivot the keeper, or take out a ball boy at the sideline. It's one or the other, and it's hard to predict which one it will be. And that isn't good enough for Rangers Football Club, in my opinion.
Yeah, and on Saturday, against Aberdeen, he had the 2 chances in the first half. I would say one that was quite close to the keeper was, probably the lesser of the 2 chances, but the one where he was through and struck it in, and it's in normal Fashion Sakala, Fashion, just bloated it as hard as it possibly can. It's just not an ounce of finesse in the boy, but we all love him, with that infectious smile he's got, and but in terms of his quality as a Rangers player, I really don't see him being a starter too often. But I think he'll be starting. I've got him down as a starter because
unfortunately I do as well. I just don't think there's any other way around it.
But in terms of, I toyed with Hadji or Scott Wright, and I kind of gave in, and I was almost reluctant, because I was beaten over the head again for, after my comments on Scott Wright. But I think he will be one who will be moving on. I think there's only about 5 out of that team who will be with us next year. But kind of wrapping things up, guys, I'm just going to come round and get your prediction for Saturday. What you expect to see and what we will see really is so. But you can be as optimistic as you want in terms of your score prediction because I'll be joining you. Colin, starting with you, what do you expect and what can we hope for?
For as long as I draw breath in this good earth, I will never predict Celtic to beat Rangers, regardless of the circumstances. Call me naive or call me arrogant or whatever. It's just I don't have it in me. Having said that, I said at the start of the show, I think if we speak about the mentality cycle that this Rangers team go through, and they seem to lift with the pressure staying off them, and they get their last chance to save some sort of dignity. I see this being very similar to the last Old Firm of the season a couple of years ago where Arfield scored 2. Fine, Rangers will lift it, especially since Michael Beale's really starting to gun for some players, and I think the players playing know that they're playing for their places next season. So I'm going to go Rangers 3, Celtic 1. But thanks for having me on, Davie, and thanks to all the listeners as always. Always a pleasure coming on.
Thank you, Colin. David, over to you. Get your crystal ball out. Tea leaf reading time. What do you expect to see on Saturday? What do you hope to see?
No, well, what I was going to say is that when Andy was talking about Sakala running through and the keeper in Aberdeen, and it's the same way with Morelos as well. You never see them doing a dummy as if they're going to shoot and then go round the keeper or try and place it. And I watched that Madja film, and he does that regularly. And it's just, something that's always that's sort of in my head that nobody's ever done that. You never see that. And hopefully we get a centre forward in that can do more different tricks to score and more composure to score. But to go into the Saturday, well, I'm a bit like Colin, so I'm going to go for 2-1 Rangers.
Excellent. Andrew, would need to put your thinking head on here and tell us what you expect to see.
I think it'll be a pie meal deal before the game, and if I wasn't working after, it'll be a couple of pints. But for the football, I think it'll be 1-0 to the Gers. I'd hope it will be a nice Connor Goldson 50p head header, where Harry Watling can say to himself, "I've had a good season so far." A set piece development coach. But to be honest, I don't care if it's 3-0, 4-0, 10-0, or 1-0. As long as it's a win, I'll be dancing in the streets. So I don't really care. Anything will do.
Yeah, I'm going with Gallant Pioneer and Dave. 2-1 to Rangers. I think we should be able to shade it. I think, surely we'll have a full house. The Rangers, we will give the team our backing. I fully expect us to go at them hammer and tongs. I mean, we've got no pressure here, so let's leave nothing out there. Go out and do it. And
one thing, Dave, if I can come in for a second, the two best defenders are still walking about in crutches, as far as I know. So that guy Vickers, two names, whatever his other name is, and Johnson, I think they're still walking about in crutches. So that's our two best defenders. So maybe Wright will have a chance.
Well, we're passing that information on to Scott Wright to maybe try and boost his confidence to get him out there. And this is your moment, Scott. Go out there and shine. And maybe
Sakala could probably not get rid of them with crutches anyway, even if they had crutches.
Well, I think he could probably run past them. I just doing it with the balls is the trick. Yeah, again, there's plenty of pace. But that's us pretty much wrapped up, guys. So thanks for viewing and putting in your comments. It's we're always delighted to see and hear you. And what we could ask you just to give us a like and pass and subscribe and pass on the comments, to others to subscribe. It's we're keen to get this thing with arms and legs. So on that note, and hopefully you enjoy Saturday. I certainly will. Will be a Rangers victory, and just give us a wee springboard into next season. That's what we need. Just boost that wee bit confidence. Just give us a wee bit feel good, and let's end our season on a bit of a high. Not the high that we hope to see, but we'll take it. Beating them any days is always a good thing. So thanks very much, and don't forget, we are the people.